Guys, in the previous demo, we talked about how to set up a new project and how to access the root folder and how to create what the overall layout of a project looks like, and your overall interface of Unity, and how to tweak that. In this project, I am going to talk about how to create, how to import assets, how to create some scenes, and how to start working on your UI. This project, in this tutorial or list of tutorials, I'm not going to be focusing on how to use the tile map and how to create your environments in 2D environments and whatnot. This is more of a focus on UI, how to create a UI for your game. So we talked about how we have our main camera. These are the objects that we have within our scene, and this is our main camera and some of the attributes attached or components attached to it. We have our assets folder, and in our assets folder we've created our scenes folder, sprites, and scripts. So in our scenes we have our sample scene. This is our sample scene. You can create a new scene by going to File and click New Scene, or you can create a scene by right-clicking and Create, and then you can click on Scene. So a lot of the times that the mistake that you guys make is that you have your scenes folder selected, and you go to those who are starting out make this mistake, is that you would go to File and you would click on Save As, and this is saving our scene, and you're going to call it, say, Start Screen, and you hit Save, and you do not see it in your scenes folder. Now what's happened is it's actually saved it in your assets, because when you click on Save As, it takes you to the assets by default. Now in order to access your scenes folder, you have to expand that and then select scenes and then hit save. Now if you've made this mistake and you want to structure your project better, you can simply drag and drop your scenes here. So now that we have our start screen in here, you can see we already have our default camera in our screen. It tells us what scene we're in, and we have right now nothing in our scripts and our sprites. So in order to add sprites or 2D graphics into our project, what we can do is we can go to Finder. Wherever we've created our graphics, it's normally better to save them by default in your sprites folder, or you can simply drag and drop them into your Finder and make sure that you're on sprites and drag and drop that here. Now if I go here, it's already added that there for me. Or what you can do is you can click on Import New Asset, or you can drag and drop it directly into your assets here. So that's how you bring in any of the assets. That applies to both your graphics, 3D models, even UI elements and whatnot, basically any sprite sheets that you're using. And then scripts, you can start scripting by right-click and then you create a new script here. We're not going to go into scripting so much right now. We're just going to start creating a basic UI. So anything that you want on your screen or your scene, you're going to create that in your hierarchy. So I have my hierarchy here. Again, there's several ways of doing things here. You can in your hierarchy right click and it'll give you this. We can go on UI since we're creating a UI, and what this will do is it'll create your canvas and your event system, and it'll give you whatever other thing you selected here. Say I was creating a panel. A panel is basically just an image and you'll see it that there's something that got added over here. Now you'll notice that this is our camera and this is our graphic. So what this does is, I believe it's so that users or creators don't get confused as to what's on our UI, which is basically an overlay onto our game, and what our camera is seeing. So if we had something overlaid over here, it'll get really confusing, and this is basically what the player is seeing, and this is just an overlay on top of that. So if I want to focus on an element, what I can do is double click on it, or I can click on F and it'll focus. So if I were zoomed in, I'm scrolling in right now, and if I were to, with that element selected, I click on F and it didn't focus. It should have. I'll just double click for now. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking about Maya. Yeah, I'm thinking about Maya. Anyway, double clicking works just as fine. You can select you can rename your panel. It's always better to have a good naming convention, and I will show you guys an example of why you need to have several panels. Now say this is your welcome panel. And you'll notice that this by default has a sort of a, it's sort of washed out. That's because the alpha settings in this are not at 100% nor at 0. So if you want to fix that, you can do that by going to the component section here. You'll notice that the welcome panel got updated here and here when we renamed it. You can choose a background image if you wish for your panel. And to do that, you're just going to click on this tiny little circle here, click on that. And if you have like a background image, you can just like, select that and it'll update it automatically. But if I click on none, it's going to be none. If I click on like, something here, it's going to do that. But if I keep it on none, I can close it. And if I go to the corners now, you'll see that that curved image is no longer there. So I'm going to go there and click on this, and now you'll notice that it has that sort of frame around it. If I want to change the color, I'm going to click on this, and there's several options over here, RGB and A. A is your alpha. So if I take this all the way up at 100%, that's 225, it means that it has 0 transparency, and 0 means that it is completely transparent. So this depends on what you're trying to do. So say you have this, and I'm going to close this. So it's created it's completely taken over all of my screen. If I were to stretch this, it's taking over all of my screen. Some of the properties that I'm going to talk about, which are important here, I'll go over those, are these rect transform. And I'll go over more details whenever we start creating buttons and stuff as to what this does, but by default it's over here. Now, if I were to go ahead and change the scale of this to 0.75 and 0.75, you'll see how that is affecting my game view. But if I go here, you're going to see that that's what our camera is, and this is what our canvas looks like. Like I said, this is an overview. This is sort of a layer on top of your game view. So in order for creators to not, or artists to not get confused, this is how it is by default. So as a UI artist or UI developer, this is what you need to be more concerned about. So we have our welcome panel here. We can move it up and down by changing the positions here. So as you can see, this is how it works. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is how to add buttons and text. So I'm gonna cover that in the next video. So this is how you create a basic panel, the very basic element of a UI. Yeah, I'll cover how to create buttons and how to create text in the next video. Thank you for watching.